okay? And first of all, I want to thank you for taking a half an hour out of your life to learn some things about health and how your body works. And I promise you, by the end of this night, you're going to know more about posture than the vast majority of physicians out there. And if you want the slides, if you want them, I'll give them to you, okay? Rather than me typing out or printing out all these notes, if you give Carmen your email address, I will send you the slides and you can review them, you can show them to your friends. Nice. And so the first question I'm going to ask is, why do I do these talks? Do I not have anything better to do on a Tuesday night? Now, I got lots of things I could do, you know. So here's why I do it, right there. Our mission is to bring health, hope, and healing to Lincoln, Nebraska. That's why I do these talks. I do these talks because I want you to think a lot deeper about your health and how your body works. When you go to a physician, if you go to your primary care provider, I want you to have a lot more intelligence, a lot more depth of how you can ask him questions and think about the answers that he's given you. And if I can teach people how to take care of themselves, they will not need me or any other doctor nearly as often. And that's my goal, okay? If I can keep you out of the doctor's office, if I can keep you healthy and vibrant so you're not in pain, so you don't have to take pharmaceuticals all the time, then I feel like I've done my job, okay? And I'm not going to ask you to do anything that I don't do myself. Okay, I'm 69 years old. I don't have any chronic pain. I don't take any pharmaceuticals. And I want you to be healthy as well. I want you to grow old and live vibrantly when you're old. You can do things that you want to do when you retire. And so tonight, we're going to talk about the importance and assessment of posture. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about what we know about posture and why it is important. Later on this evening, I'm going to show you how to assess posture, and we're going to practice what we know to share with our family members. Now, first thing I want to talk about is structure and function. Structure determines function. So which one of these tires do you think is going to roll the best? Okay.
That one.
All right. So that shouldn't be a hard question. If it is, you may be in the wrong place. Okay. So this one, okay? So you change your function of the tire, it's not going to work right, okay? If you have a cart and you have this kind of tire on it, it's going to be a lot harder to roll because the structure is changed. Okay, in the health world, we have normals and ideals. For example, we have a normal for body temperature, okay? What's normal for body temperature? Anybody?
98.6.
98.6, okay? So if you're running like 96, 95, what does that usually mean?
You're cool.
Okay, that's a great answer, Terry. Can't argue with that.
That's a good one, yeah.
Like maybe you have a thyroid disorder, okay? Maybe your energy production isn't very high, all right? Blood pressure. What's normal for blood pressure?
120 over 80.
120 over 80. Now, I'm gonna say that's yes, probably. Okay. 120 over 80 is pretty good for somebody that's 30. But you know, as you get older, your arteries get a little stiffer. Mm-hmm. So it's possible that your blood pressure could go up naturally. Okay. Yeah. It's like if you look at somebody's skin when they're 24, they don't have any wrinkles, okay? But, you know, when you get to be my age, you get wrinkles, okay? And it's kind of happens. And so we can't expect to be 24 our entire life. So blood pressure may go up. You know, if you do a lot of high-intensity interval exercises, you can probably keep your blood pressure pretty low. So what's the normal for pulse? Anybody? Anybody know? What's the normal pulse range?
95. 90.
72.
Okay.
72 is normal. 95 is pretty high.
Oh,
If you're running a 95 pulse all the time, there's something wrong. You either got a rip-roaring infection or your heart's not doing very well, but your pulse rate should not be high. All right? So there are published ideal and normal ranges for posture. And these have been rigorously studied. For the cervical spine, the neck, that study was published in 1996. The lumbar spine, 1998. Thoracic spine, 2003. These were published by chiropractors, and they're actually used by surgeons when they're doing neck surgery to determine what the curve should be. Most of the surgeons don't realize that the study they're using was done by a chiropractor. A normal spine is healthy. An abnormal spine, unhealthy. So this would be what a normal spine should look like. If we look at this x-ray right here, the green represents normal. The red dot represents abnormal. Can you see how far that head is sitting in front of that spine? Okay, and look how curved, how kyphotic this thoracic spine is. So this person here looks like this. So what do you think? Do you think it takes a little bit more energy to walk around like that and does like that? Of course it does. So posture can determine your energy level. If you have bad posture, if you walk around like this, do you think it takes more energy to walk like that? Or how about just with your feet turned out? I have a neighbor, and it just pains me to see him run. He's a little older than I am. His feet are turned out, and he goes running. I'm going, how much more energy does it take to run like that? A lot more. So the central nervous system controls the body. The spine protects and informs the central nervous system. So why and how is abnormal posture unhealthy? Do you think that somebody that has posture like this, do you think their central nervous system, which is running through their spine, can be working properly? Why would it not work properly? You know, if your spinal cord comes out of your brain here, and it's supposed to come straight down and it's bending over, why would that not work? Why would that lead to health issues?
Sublux, whatever that is.
Well, these definitely got subluxation,
Okay.
but why would a spinal cord shaped like in that kind of configuration, why would that be unhealthy?
It's cut off.
Pressure.
Yeah, your spinal cord is very sensitive to stretching. So if your body's stretched like this, what that's going to do to your spinal cord, it's going to stretch it. And the messages from the brain to the body are going to be interfered with. You're going to get static. Okay, this is why posture is important. It's just not just how you look. It's not because you look a little funky, you know, when you're like this. It's because it's actually stretching the spinal cord, and that has a big effect on the rest of your body, since your brain controls and coordinates everything in your system. Now, here's an article out of Psychology Today that says abnormal posture, you're less attractive. I'll read it. This is October of 2020. Body orientation and openness. It's no secret that a closed-off body posture appears uninviting and can say, I'm not interested. Facing the other person invites a connection. An open posture conveys trust and makes it easier to be approached. So even posture has an effect on how attractive we are. So abnormal posture, you have more pain. So I want you to do an experiment for me. I want you everybody to hold out their finger. Okay, this is real easy. Curve it. Okay, that's how your neck is supposed to curve. Now take your hand and do this. Okay, that's pretty easy, isn't it? Okay, now let's look at a neck that's reversed, has a reverse curve. Do this to your finger. Now come down on it. Now, do you think that could affect your body? Now, if you did this to your finger, you know, for a couple of weeks, what do you think would happen to your finger? You think it might hurt?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So you have a reversed curve in your neck, which is stretching the spinal cord backwards. What do you think that's doing to your health? Why do you think people come in and they have neck pain? They may not have neck pain immediately, but unless you get that neck curved right, you know, they're going to continue to have problems. What about taking a breath? I want everybody to do this. Slouch forward, just like this. Okay. Breathe in and out. Now, come back into good posture, shoulders back, now breathe in. Out. How many were able to take in more air? Okay, yeah, most of us, right? Okay, so what's the results if you have rounded shoulders and a kyphotic neck and your head is forward? What's the result of bringing air into your lungs?
Minimal.
Yeah, it's diminished, right? So if you can't bring air into your lungs properly, how is that going to affect your body?
Negatively.
Yeah, negatively. Anybody know how negatively?
Can't properly oxygenate your blood?
Bingo! Man, you ought to get a coffee card for that. I don't have one to give you, but you ought to have one. That's a great answer. Yeah. How can you oxygenate your blood if you can't get air into your lungs? You know? And what the consequences of not being able to oxygenate your blood?
Organ damage.
Could be.
Heart trouble.
Heart trouble. How about like lightheadedness?
Yep.
You know?
Faint.
Yeah, faintness, fatigue.
Yeah.
Okay, chronic fatigue when you can't get oxygen to your blood. Yeah, and so posture can make a big difference. Now, if somebody has that and let's say they have bad posture, they're like this, okay, and they can't get air into their lungs, and they go to a physician and they have lightheadedness, what are they going to get? What's going to happen?
Drugs.
Pharmaceuticals?
Probably pharmaceuticals, something like Antivert, you know, to you know, for vertigo, which we know. I could show you the studies that most vertigos due to neck problems, primarily problems in the neck. Okay, so posture is pretty darn important. Now, abnormal posture, you have less brain. Now look at this one. This is a concept of neuroplasticity. This is a really interesting study that was done. The average pain-free person above or around 45 years old tends to lose about 1/2 of a square centimeter of gray matter per year. The average chronic pain patient can lose as much as 10 to 20 square centimeters of gray matter per year. So what happens is when you're in chronic pain, you lose brain matter. And this is a study that was published, I think it was a Journal of Neurology in 2003 or 2004 when this study came out. What it showed that people with chronic pain lose brain matter. It takes about a year before that starts. And I mean, if you look at a computer, what would happen if you just started pulling parts out of your computer over time? You're not going to work for very long. Now, your brain is immensely more complex than a computer and much more adaptable than a computer. But the analogy is still there. So, abnormal posture, you're less coordinated. Here's another really interesting study. People with forward head posture can't track things with their eyes as well. Okay, this has been studied. They can't return their head to neutral as well. They can't get center and balanced as well, which means you're more likely to have problems with balance, movement, and falling. So think about this, okay? These are extreme examples, all right? But what about an athlete who's got forward head posture? What about a wide receiver who's trying to make the NFL? Do you think this stuff is important? It's doggone important. It's danged important, okay? So this is hand-eye coordination right here. And we just got a study, I think it just got published, that showed that forward head posture affects every single thing that they test for in the NFL. Vertical jump, you know, speed, hand-eye coordination. So forward head posture is really important in the world of sports. It's not just, now we're talking about a little bit more refined here, but if the NFL, once the NFL gets a hold of these studies, you know, things are going to change. You're going to start putting these players under chiropractic care, and I'll show you how we do that, how we change that. So, abnormal posture. let's talk about your autonomic nervous system, sympathetic nervous system, parasympathetic nervous system. What's your sympathetic nervous system do? These are two parts. Let's talk about what's your autonomic nervous system. Who knows?
Sympathetic and parasympathetic.
Right. But what does your autonomic nervous system do? Anybody know? That's why you're in this class. That's good. Nobody knows, okay? So your autonomic nervous system controls all your body functions that you don't think about. So how many of you guys think about your heart beating? Oh, you don't think about that. How many of you guys think about breathing? How many of you guys think about food digestion? You think, well, I just ate, some pecans. Let's got to get those digested. No, it does it on its own. It's your autonomic nervous system, okay? Mm-hmm. So your sympathetic nervous system, that part of your autonomic nervous system is fight or flight. Mm-hmm. So fight or flight, what happens when you're scared? Can you digest food well?
Adrenaline kicks in.
Do you think about sex when you're scared? Absolutely. I mean, I don't know of anybody that does, okay? So, no, you're just concentrating on the problem. So if you're backed into a corner and you got two pit bulls that are growling at you, you're not thinking about digesting food. So what happens? That shuts down. What happens is your vision gets really good and you get and you get really tense and you're not thinking about anything else, okay? So what happens is when you've got bad posture, what that does is it actually elevates your sympathetic nervous system. Well, you can't heal when your sympathetic nervous system is on fire, okay? You heal with your parasympathetic nervous system. Your parasympathetic nervous system is sex, rest, and digest. So that's when your parasympathetic nervous system is when, like you're think about when you're at a family dinner, maybe at Thanksgiving, everybody's laughing and cutting up and the food is great. And man, you're just having a great time. You're not like this then, you're relaxed. That's your parasympathetic nervous system. That's when your body heals. Now your parasympathetic nervous system should be more active at night because your body heals at night. But if you have bad posture, what happens is that activates your sympathetic nervous system. Your parasympathetic nervous system can't work as well, so you can't heal as well because you can only heal when your parasympathetic nervous system is engaged. So where's your sympathetic nervous system? Anybody know where is it primarily? That's a good question, and if you got that answer, you'd be really good. Okay.
In the gut.
What?
In the gut.
Is it in your spinal cord?
Great answer. Your spine. It's in the middle of it's primarily from the middle of your neck down. So from about there to there. Okay. So if you got problems, spinal problems in that area, good chances your sympathetic nervous system is engaged a little bit too much. So where's your parasympathetic nervous system? Where is that in your? Where are the nerves to that area? Anybody? Some of you, I've worked on this issue when you've been in the room. Okay, it's your vagus nerve, which comes out of here. Okay, comes out of the back of your brain across here, innervates your heart, lungs, and the upper 2/3 of your digestive tract. Okay, it's also down here in your sacrum. Now, how many people that have come into my office? I've taken my little instrument and adjusted you down there. What I'm doing is stimulating your parasympathetic nervous system. When you lay on your back, and I have my finger hooked right back here, I'm adjusting C2, which is stimulating your parasympathetic nervous system. So when we change posture, we change how the autonomic nervous system functions. So with abnormal posture, your spine breaks down faster. So a kyphotic neck, meaning a neck that has a reverse curve, breaks down 200 to 300 times faster than one that isn't kyphotic. This is why I'm constantly on people. Are you doing your home traction exercises? People get tired of me asking them that. The reason is I don't want this to happen to them, okay? I don't want it to happen to me either, all right? So, so let's see. Abnormal posture can create pathological tension in your central nervous system. So if you take surgical tubing and you relax it, okay, you can put water through there pretty well. But what if you start stretching it and pulling it tight? What happens to the diameter of the tubing?
Reduces it.
Reduces it. There isn't enough room, okay? That happens in your spinal cord, your central nervous system. And so we want a spinal cord that's relaxed, nerves that are relaxed. So abnormal posture, your organs suffer. It's like having a short in electrical wire. And the problem with that is you don't always know what's happening until it's advanced for a long time. Mm-hmm. So how much pressure does it take on a nerve to cut off 60% of the nerve supply? Anybody know how much pressure? Okay. The weight of a dime. So put a dime in your hand. That's how much pressure it takes on a nerve to cut off 60%. Now, you don't even know something is wrong until 60% of your nerve supply is cut off. You don't even have any awareness of it. So what is 50%? You want to walk around with 50% of the nerve supply to your liver working? I don't. I'd like 100%. Considering the amount of toxicity we're exposed to, and I'm going to do a talk on that in February on toxins, I want my liver working as best as it can. Mm-hmm. So think about this. Also, with bad posture, what do you think that does to your organs? So if you're standing straight like this, okay, and your organs are generally going to be in place. But if you're slumped over like this all the time, do you think that might crowd your organs? You know, you've seen people walking around like this? Okay. What do you think happens to their organs? They're crowded. Do you think they can work properly when they're crowded and compressed? Not very well. Okay. You think those people might have a little bit of constipation? Might have a lot. Okay. Because how can the small and large intestine work properly when you're like this? Okay. Or even a little bit. Maybe just a little bit of postural distortion can do that. So what happens with bad posture is when you have pressure on nerves, these nerves get denervated over time. And what happens is here's what a normal muscle looks like, but they get fatty and fibrous tissue. So this is 20 weeks right here of a muscle that doesn't have the proper nerve supply, so it gets infiltrated with fat. So what happens when muscles get infiltrated with fat? What do you think happens?
Blood clot.
You think they're strong? No, they're just not as strong. So you can't do what you need to do. They can't hold you together as well. You can't move as well. Okay, so what does this loss of the cervical curve do to the speed at which your central nervous system processes? This is a study published in a very high-level journal, Scientific Reports, last year. This came out last summer, actually. Showed that loss of a normal cervical curve, so that's going from here to either here or here, okay, slows the central processing time and conductivity time from the brain to the body. So if you start losing curve in your neck, that's going to change the processing speed. So what do you think that does? Do you think you can learn as well?
Nope.
There's no way.
Affects your memory too.
Could affect your memory? Yeah. And here's another thing. If you're an athlete and that's happening, you think you're going to perform well? Maybe we need to talk to TCU about this. They lost pretty bad last night. Yeah, they got a beat down, you know. So I'm wondering about the curve in their necks. So, what else happens with the loss of cervical curve and altered head posture? This is in the Journal of Clinical Medicine, September this year. Head and neck alignment play a role in whole body pain and impairment, including low back pain and related disorders. Abnormal cervical posture increases stress and strain on the entire spinal cord and nerve roots. Loss of cervical curve contributes substantially to lower back pain. And abnormal posture in any part of the spinal column will reduce abnormal stresses in the entire cord and nerve roots, while normal posture will minimize these stresses. Will induce, rather than reduce. So think of it this way. Your head weighs about, what, 13 pounds, okay? It weighs about, I would say, 8 pounds less than the bowling ball I have in the back, which I do this demonstration with. So your head weighs about 13 pounds. So if you have 13 pounds and you, like this, okay? Now, if you hold that perfectly even, you could do that for a while, but what happens if you do this? What happens? And you try and hold that there. What happens to your arm? It gets sore, right? Yeah, a lot of stress, okay? So when we have abnormal posture, it changes the weight balance of our head, okay? So what happens is when our neck changes, and the shape of our neck changes and the shape of our head changes, like for example, if your head's sitting over here like this, and I see this a lot in practice, okay, so what happens over time is the spine is going to come around like this and curve to level the eyes and balance the weight of the head. What happens when you get that? Now you got all kinds of nerve pressure, abnormal pressures in your spine, and not only are you getting stress on your nervous system, this is when you get arthritis in the spine, when you get arthritic spurring, when the spine, your body's trying to level your eyes and balance your head. That's another reason why posture is so important. So here's a kyphotic. There's normal, there's kyphotic. Here's what you see all the time, okay? So kyphotic posture, this is another study, was associated with loss of independence and mortality in older adults. So older adults that have kyphotic posture, okay, what happens to them? They lose independence and they die sooner, okay? Here's some of the things that have been studied with kyphotic posture. Decline in physical function. We all know it's an impairment in pulmonary function. We just did that. Increased pain, reflux, poor quality of life, increase in falls, because it definitely interferes with your ability to balance. So let's talk about tech neck, okay? I know nobody's ever seen anything like this before, have they? Okay? So how does technology affect our spines? This is a study out of the International Journal of Environmental Research and Public Health, February 2021, fairly recent study. It says the improper use of personal computers, especially cell phones, might be related to the development of a complex cluster of clinical symptoms commonly defined as text neck syndrome. Children and adolescents spend several hours a day on their smartphones and handheld devices with their heads flexed forward to read and text. The text neck syndrome has increased stresses on the cervical spine, which can lead to cervical degeneration, along with developmental, now this is right out of this journal, it's a quote right out of this article, developmental, medical, psychological, and social complications. It's not good for kids to be doing that, okay? Now, I grew up in the 60s and 70s, there wasn't any of this crap around. And, we went out and played, we had fun. We don't do, kids don't do that anymore. And I like the convenience of cell phones. There's some really good things about them. But, man, they're hurting people's necks like there's no tomorrow. So complication of text neck syndrome can involve the eyes, the heart, the lungs, the head, and the mental health field. These postures, again, this is from that study, can result in long-term damage to the body, including taking years off their life expectancy. So we know that posture can affect longevity, okay? Getting adjusted and correcting your posture lengthens your telomeres. We have a really interesting case study on this, where they took somebody that was in a car accident, and they looked at their DNA. And the ends of the DNA, they're called telomeres. And one of the things you can tell how fast somebody's aging is by how long these telomeres are. And there's labs that actually measure that, okay? So there's a study that was done where they took, this was a case study, but now there's a really big study going on, and it's by a chiropractor, by the way, that's doing this study. So they looked at what effect this posture and adjusting have on the length of these telomeres, because these telomeres, as we age, they get shorter, shorter, and shorter. And I actually do a talk on anti-aging where I go into that in great detail. But I'm just going to talk about this study. So this guy measured this woman's telomeres. He did, I think, 8 weeks of chiropractic care on this woman, twice a week, got the curve back in her neck, measured the telomeres. They'd grown by 8%. So they actually not only slowed the aging process, they actually brought her age back just a ways, okay? So we know for a fact, based on that study, now we're doing a really big one because you can't, just on one person, you can't like make huge generalizations. But we know that there is an increase in mortality with bad posture. And when you correct that, that can correct the telomeres. So what if breakdown is greater than repair? Well, that's when you're slowly dying then, okay? So when assessing a person's posture, when I ask somebody to have their posture screened, this could be like the most important thing they could ever do in their health, because what I'm trying to do is say, look, here's your posture, you got these stresses on your spine. Do you want to fix that? Okay? Now it's up to them whether they want to do it, but when we think about health in our culture, we think about health breakdown. What do we think about? Most people think about when their health starts breaking down, what? They need to what? Go find some pharmaceuticals. You've got to take drugs, right? Drugs, right? Pharmaceuticals. How many people think when their health is breaking down, I wonder if it's my posture that's doing it? Nobody thinks about that. But look at all these studies. How come these studies don't make the evening news? Because there's not billions of dollars worth of profit, because of them. So, we don't, I'm going to have money to put these on the news. So the fact is that maybe we need to look at the spine, the nervous system, and our posture rather than pharmaceuticals when our health breaks down, okay? Now, how do we analyze posture? Okay, so we always start from the feet and then go up, all right? So, Jason, stand up for a second. I'm going to analyze your posture. Is that okay?
Sure.
Do you want to take your coat off? Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Good thing. All right. Okay. You want to turn around? Okay. So we're going to analyze Jason's posture. So I want you to stand as normal as you can. Okay. Now close your eyes. Chin down. Head down as far as you can go. Now back as far as you can. Now back to normal. Okay. Now open your eyes. Now we're going to look at his, start from the feet, okay? Feet, not bad, okay? Now look at his hands right now. Look at this hand and look at this hand. Now, if I were to stand like this, look at my hands now. You see my hands and look at Jason's hands. See the difference? See the hands, his or hands are turned in like this.
Oh, yeah.
That means that when the hands are turned in, like that, or they're starting to turn in, that means he may have some stress on his thyroid, okay? And when you see somebody standing and they just stand like this, they got a thyroid problem, for sure, okay? For sure. Okay. All right.
How does that explain, how are those correlated?
That's a great question, okay? So the thing that does this to the hands is called the teres minor muscle. All your muscles in the body are associated with an organ. All associated. So the teres minor is associated with the thyroid. So when the thyroid is weak, the teres minor loses its ability to work properly, and the hands tend to turn in like this.
Oh.
Okay? But it's true with anything. Like, here's an example. Here's another example. So that's a great question, by the way. You should get a coffee card, too. So anyway, so what happens is people that have a chronic high shoulder like this, that can be a blood sugar issue, because the muscle down here that keeps your shoulders level is associated with your pancreas. So if somebody has a lot of stress in their pancreas, that could be one of the things causing the high shoulder. Okay. So anyway, let's get back to Jason's posture. If you just relax. Okay. So if we look at Jason's posture, so if we look at his, can you see that he has a left high shoulder? Okay. Okay. Now, I know Jason well enough to know that he's not tanking up on sugar. So, so I don't think that's the issue with him. So he might have a spinal issue there. Now, if we look at his head, let's look at his ears. Okay, so left high ear. Okay, left high shoulder. So Jason is sort of listing to the right just a little bit. Okay, so do you think that might be putting some stress on his spine?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Let's look at his hips. A little crowded here. His hips aren't too bad. But when I look at his head from the side, I run my hand through his ear and down. It's happening, the center of gravity of his head is way out in front. So your head should be way back here, like over your shoulders. So I look at him, so he's got a bit of a forward head carriage. So doing some home traction exercises would be really good for Jason, okay? So yeah, you got some postural distortion, and that'd be good for you to do some of that. So that's how you can check people's posture. You start with the feet, go up, look at the hips, look at the shoulders, look at the ear. Then you look for things like rotation. You know, is the trunk rotated like that? So if the trunk is rotated, that kind of rotation, do you think that's good for the back? You know, walking around where it's rotated like that? Obviously not.
No.
So what if you got lateral translation? So what if the shoulders are like way over here like this? Do you think that's putting stress on the spine?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So those are things that you can look for, and you can look for that in your family members. It's not hard. You know, it's not rocket science to do a postural analysis. You're good. Thanks.
Okay.
Okay.
I need to make an appointment.
Okay.
Got some things to work on.
Jason's more of a functional medicine patient. She's not a chiropractic patient. Okay. So the last thing I'm going to do, and we've gone just a little bit over, and I apologize for that. Last thing I'm going to do, we're going to talk about vital needs to the body. It's the last thing we're going to talk about. It's going to be quick. What are the vital needs that we have that keep us alive? What do we have to have?
Oxygen, food, water.
Okay, so we have to have food. Okay, so how long can you go without food? If you went on a total water fast, how long could you go?
3 days.
Couple weeks.
Oh, you can go more than 3 days, Jason. I've gone 7.
Oh, I thought
It's all right, I didn't blow away. Okay, so no, you go 60 days without eating. The average. Now, I did read in a journal one time that said the average obese American male could go 100 days without food and still be okay. 100 days. Okay, 100 days.
Wow.
Okay. So I know you can go 60. Like I could go probably 60, and that would be my limit. So after 60 days, I don't need water. I don't need air. I need a good meal. Okay, okay, or I'm going to die. So what's the other vital need? What are some of the other vital needs you need? Water.
Yeah.
Okay, you can't live without water. How long can you go without water?
That's the 3 days.
Not too long.
You can go longer than 3 days.
10 days.
Maybe 10 days. I don't know. You know, that's pretty good,
That's
Terry.
a while.
I would say 7 would probably be the limit. 7 days without water. And then you don't need food after that. You need a good drink of water. Okay. Okay, what about oxygen? How long can you go without oxygen?
3-4 minutes.
Okay, how long?
Not very long.
Probably maybe the world record's somebody like Wim Hof or somebody like that. You know, I think he's gone like 5 minutes swimming under ice. You know, that's pretty good. You know, I couldn't do that.
No.
You know, somebody that's really highly trained, most people maybe 2 minutes. Okay, without oxygen. Then so what can't you live out without for 1 second? You can't live without it for 1 second.
Nerve intervention.
Yeah, nerve energy. Yeah, Terry's been to my classes before. Nerve energy. How do we know that?
The guillotine.
Yeah, the guillotine.
Guillotine.
Oh my.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You cut somebody's head off, what happens? They die
Ends.
instantly because of
Dead duck.
you cannot live for 1 second without energy from the brain going to your body. Okay, so subluxations don't cut that off completely. Subluxations, which is what chiropractors treat, cut it off somewhat. That's why we adjust the spine, because that nerve energy from the brain to the body is so important. You cut off the head, you die instantly. You can live 2 minutes without air, but you can't live 1 second without nerve energy. That's why chiropractors adjust the spine, so we release the energy from the brain to the body and to the organs. So here's what I want to know. Everybody knows somebody that's sick, that's unhealthy, that some people don't even have any hope. Who do you know like that? Who do you know that needs chiropractic, that needs care? You know, I want you to think about that. Who do you know that's sick, unhealthy, in pain, and they have no hope? You know, those are the people that probably need a good postural assessment and need somebody to look at them and see if we can help them. And you know, I can't reach all your friends or your family members, but you could do a posture assessment on them. You know how to do it now. And find out, send them in. We'll just do a posture check. We'll do a subluxation check. We do that at our expense. If we can help them, we'll tell them. If this isn't the right office for them, man, we'll tell them that too. But at least give them a chance to get whole, to be better. I mean, my mother, somebody told her about chiropractic. She was dying. And she'd have been dead 50 years ago if somebody hadn't told her about chiropractic. And she's 92 now. And she has some issues, but she still lives independently, still cooks her own meals, does her own grocery shopping, because somebody told her about chiropractic. She gets adjusted twice a week. She would have been dead. She got kicked in the horse when she was 2, kicked in the head by a horse when she was 2. And that set her on a course for her entire life of health issues. And it was when somebody told her about chiropractic and she started getting adjusted, which is why I'm in this profession. So I just want you to think of somebody that you know and tell them, bring in one of my classes, okay? Show them on YouTube. And maybe we can really help those people live a better, more normal life. So that's all I have for you tonight. I've gone 12 minutes over. I didn't think I would, but I did.
I
Okay.
think you should get a coffee for everybody.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, well, maybe I'll get you
16
one.
ounce coffee with creamer. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.